Hey everybody, welcome to the Geek Reloading podcast. I am your host Adam, and as always my co-host Josh.
Hello.
My co-host, whatever, I'm keeping it in.
Co-host,
I refuse to redo that.
It's great. We've already done it a couple times.
Yeah, if you had heard our episode 45, we had our guest host Mindy on again, as Josh and Mindy did their top fives of just a couple of their personal favorite things that they wanted to talk about, which I thought was super fun.
It was a lot of fun to do, and there's another episode coming up at some point. I'm not sure when it's going to be coming out, but there's another one.
Yeah, and that's actually what kind of inspired this one that we're going to do today. And today we're going to dive into our personal favorite, video game movie adaptations. Now, these aren't ones that are based off of like an extension of the game or anything like that. These are like the actual ones that are based on the games for the most part. And they aren't necessarily the highest critically rated ones. There are personal favorites.
Yes, because there are some really crappy movies in here, but we love.
Yes.
So, and I was really excited when you brought this one up, so I'm excited to get into this one. Get into the weeds, so to speak.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that everybody has those guilty pleasure movies or TV shows or video games or whatever. And so this is just a fun thing to go into as well. So yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, and some of these you probably don't want to go back and watch because some of them won't hold up. But some of them are fun. So
yeah. We also we had one that snuck in because you and me both agreed that it was something that is our favorite, but it's not actually a movie. But you know what? We'll leave it in. We're going to leave it in.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. Also, obviously, we changed up the format a little bit. Not a ton, but we decided, a little while ago that we added some underlying music. It's provided by Stream Beats, and we just want to know if you guys like that. We've heard some positive and even some negative on it. It's something that's nice when me and Josh have nothing to say. It's not just dead air. It's dead air with a groove. That's why I like it.
That is kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and one day when we're able to actually get, my office soundproofed and Josh's office a little more soundproofed and stuff, we won't have this wonderful echo that I am not really fixing quite yet. It's gonna happen though, guys. It's a work in progress.
We'll figure it out at some point, or you'll just appreciate that we're not great.
You know what though, dude? I have a lot of friends who do like audio or they do podcasts, and they're like, you know what, man, it's not bad. It's not bad. For all things considered, you're doing all right. And I'm like, okay, good enough is good enough for me. That's what I think. That's
kind of what I've gotten as well. Is the sound is pretty good. It's not bad. It's not a negative.
No.
So.
Okay, so obviously these kind of span from the beginning of the video game adaptations all the way to now. And so you have a wide range of movies that are kind of all over the place, even when it comes to the genres that they kind of fit into. We have some action ones, we have some kids ones, some more like adult ones. Not adult, not not that, but close.
Not Blood Rain.
Which was just a bad movie. That wasn't on our bad movies that we like adaptations. I don't know if there's anybody who really throws any of those Yui Bowl movies around. Anyway.
That's true.
So yeah, my first one, dude, so this one actually, when it came out, it was like either you liked it or you like hated it, depending on if you had played the game and if you liked how they took it and everything. And that one was Silent Hill.
So for me, it was I have a really hard time with scary movies. Like, imagery gets in my head, but I think I watched part of this, and I don't know. I really like the game, but I don't know about the movie.
I liked the movie for what it was. It was a low budget horror movie that actually stayed pretty as close. I was pleasantly surprised at how close they stayed true to the first game. They did change some major things, like the main parent that's looking for their daughter is the mother instead of the father. And the writer was mentioning that was, like there's a natural stronger connection between mothers and their children than fathers and their children, so that's why they like went that way. But they actually reenacted some of the direct scenes from Silent Hill 1 and 2, and it was pretty heavy, but it was really good too, in my opinion, when it comes to a video game adaptation and stuff.
And that's kind of a tall order. Like there's not a lot of great video game adaptations.
Yep.
So
Yeah. Now, that being said, Silent Hill Revelations, the other Silent Hill movie, is not good. That one is rough. But if you want to watch it, you'll see a young Jon Snow in there with no beard, which is really unsettling, but he's in there.
That is just wrong because it's Jon Snow.
Yeah, there are some people in this world that the beard should just always stay, and he might be one of them. I don't know. I look better with a beard, so it's okay. I feel it.
Do you think now, like, even with the show being over and everything, and do you think he gets a lot of the nothing? Like, that's probably like a constant.
That's going to be like a lifelong thing. It's going to be he's going to
be 72 and people are going to be like, nothing. And I'd punch people.
Yeah. It's going to be like Will Wheaton getting Wesley comments like all of his life. It's going to happen. It's just he is one of those pivotal characters at a certain time that was super popular. It's going to be a permanent thing. I mean,
Will Wheaton's moved past Wesley, I think. Like he
may have. It doesn't mean everybody else has.
No, there's some people that will never move past certain things. Anyways,
I don't know if I ever will with him. All right, I'd said it. I said it.
That's fair. All right, so the next one, I've just grouped 3 of them in there because they all kind of play the same role for me, and that's Street Fighter, Mario Brothers, and Double Dragon. All 3 movies, not great. Not good, really. I would say they're not good. But they all did something that I really loved about the movies is they gave a story to something that didn't have a story. Like Street Fighter, you have you're fighting, like you're in a street fight with these people from around the world.
Yeah.
They actually built a story around it, like, made the bad guys, made good guys, They gave reasons for it.
Sure.
The same with Mario Brothers. Mario Brothers, like, granted, like, probably not the best story, but it was a story, and it made sense enough to pull everything in and, like, anything like
Mario
that.
Brothers, not nearly to the same caliber as Street Fighter when it comes to building a story. Because, I mean, they actually had, like, a route to start with. And then they went, we'll just throw that out and do this weird thing instead with, who was it? Dennis Hopper? Was that who it was? That was Koopa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, and that was a whole...
But here's the thing. They did something with it, and that's what matters. And then Double Dragon is actually really fun. That's a good one.
And these are just, the big dumb fun movies from my childhood that I just love. I mean, the Double Dragon... Man, I wanted to live in a movie theater for so long after that. Like, that place was freaking amazing.
Yeah, that one was pure dumb fun, and that one had Alyssa Milano in there. Yeah, I remember that. And then Street Fighter, it was the girl that plays Cammy. She's a Kylie Minogue.
Yes,
she played Cammy. That was an awakening for young Adam. I'm going to be honest. That was something that, I wasn't expecting that when I watched Street Fighter. But I watched everything that Jean-Claude Van Damme had ever been in, whether it was a rated R movie or not when I was a kid, because my mom had zero awareness of maybe a kid shouldn't be watching rated R movies. So when Street Fighter came out, it was like a natural, of course I'm going to watch that.
It's a video game movie. We have to watch it. Yeah.
And also, Ming-Na Wen was in there, too. The voice of Mulan. She played Chun-Li. She's also in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah.
Man, you know all the trivia about these shitty movies that I like. Nice.
Yeah, dude. Well, here's the thing. Street Fighter, it's up there. I own it. It's a good one. I mean, and it was fun, and they did some things good. I mean, Guile having that really thick accent, whatever, that's fine. But it was Van Damme, which was awesome.
Well, and that was one of the things is, like, I thought Blanca was the stupidest character in the movie, but I loved playing as Blanca.
They did Blanca dirty.
They did. It
was rough.
Did.
But Zangief was fun.
But then they made
really good.
Guile really cool. So, yeah. It's just of those, and the whole Mario Brothers is just, if you go in with no expectations, as like I did when I was a kid, it's actually just a fun movie.
It's 90s dumb fun, which a lot of movies in the 90s were dumb fun. So it's not like it's out of place for that generation's films.
Yeah.
So watch them, have fun.
Enjoy.
So, the next one is like the exact opposite, where they went, hey, we want to make a good, like, real action film. And that's one that I brought up, which is the new Tomb Raider. It came out in 2018, I think. The new Tomb Raider that was based on the reboot that came out in 2013. I like this one a lot, actually. This one I feel like is just, it's a good action movie in general. It has some cheesy video game parts, but overall, the actual movie was pretty good. Did you ever see it, man?
I think so. No, I haven't actually. I have not watched this one yet.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a basic adventure action movie, but there's nothing wrong with that in my mind. I think that it was fun.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, and more than anything else, I think that it was them trying to really start like blurring that line between, no, this is a video game movie, and then them going, hey, this is just a movie that happens to be based on a video game that we like. And it came out before some of the bigger heavy hitters that we have on our list. And also, Alicia Vikander, the girl who plays Lara Croft in Tomb Raider, she got ripped for this. She was so active doing CrossFit and all sorts of like martial arts and different types of things. A+ to her for committing to it. It was really good.
That is, can't complain about that. That is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay,
so
man. Next one's yours.
My next one is Final Fantasy Spirits Within, and this is completely 3D generated. And this movie I love because I feel that this was the first time that we've seen 3D like people past that Uncanny Valley. Like if you go back and you watch what is it? The Polar Express.
Oh, that's so unsettling.
It is. It's really unsettling, and it's because it's just enough off of real people.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, even Tom Hanks couldn't save that shit. That was
exactly.
rough.
It was like I watched it once and I was like, I'll never see this again. This is just kind of unsettling, creepy. Like, yeah. But
Yeah.
Final Fantasy Spirits Within was, I think, a little bit just after that. But
It might have been before it even.
It might have been, but there's none of that uncomfortable feeling. It was really well done, and kind of a stupid thing that I should have, realized much earlier, but I was dumb, is this was the first time that I realized that Final Fantasies were all their own story. They weren't a continuation at all.
Yeah, it's a big jump, man. Like every single one is completely different. They do have some that like actually are supposed to be set in the same world, but they're usually like sequels, obviously, and everything. But I think there's like 2 or 3 that are set in the same world technically, but the rest of them are completely separate worlds, completely separate storylines.
Yeah, and like I did not realize that at all until like I watched this show and I was like, wait a minute, this is like a whole different universe. That's nothing connected to the other ones, and I was like, oh, that's really quite interesting. And then I realized that was the whole thing about Final Fantasies. This is each story, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not like a super big fan of like a lot of the sequels, because Final Fantasy, it was the big thing. Yeah.
So, dude, I just looked it up. Final Fantasy Spirits Within came out in 2001. The Polar Express came out in 2004. So
3 years later, and they
and they did even worse. I mean, granted, it's a different type of animation studio or whatever, but that thing was yikes. And honestly, Spirits Within was like way ahead of its time. You got to remember that. Like,
that's
the
true.
Hair physics and the special effects. There was stuff that you were seeing done by Square Enix that major blockbuster movies had yet to really touch even. And it was, and honestly, it's one of my favorites too, actually. I own that one and I watch it probably once a year, and I enjoy it. I try and throw in, like Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, but that thing is just the most, it's just convoluted and needlessly complicated, and the dialogue is awful. The action's amazing. That's the best thing I can say about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I actually really liked the progression of the characters in that, because it wasn't like, and that's kind of, it was okay for me, because like Advent Children was kind of like, it's not necessarily another world-ending event. It's
Yeah.
kind of a continuation of this other, the actual story that Final Fantasy VII was. But like the progression of the characters and like how they've changed and like why they are who they are and like what they've become over these few years before Advent Children happens.
Yeah.
I thought that alone was worth it. So
Yeah, it was one of those things where I'm like, I'm going to enjoy the visualizations. I'm going to enjoy the fight sequences and the beauty that they can create, but literally the story was going to slow me down from enjoying those rather than, bad action taking away from a good story. It was like the opposite, But
yeah.
I still enjoy it. I still own it. But, while we're on it, I mean, the Final Fantasy 15 Kingsglaive, that one is beautiful and amazing too. Did you ever see that one?
I still haven't watched it. I bought it and yeah.
Dude, you need to give it a solid college try. I mean, if you can appreciate Advent Children for what it is, that one is really good, actually. It's really good.
Honestly, I'm excited about it because I like the storyline in Final Fantasy 15. I actually think it's one of the best Final Fantasy stories. Mm-hmm. So,
okay.
I do want it.
There's your homework for the week, man. That's it.
That's true.
So the next one, man, this one, it's, to me, I feel like it was my generation's video game movie. And that was like very, very end of junior high, beginning of high school. And that was 2001's Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie.
Now, see, this is why I didn't add anything to the other Tomb Raider, because it wasn't Angelina Jolie. It wasn't... She had that attitude that I thought Lara Croft needed.
Yes, like she very well embodied the original Tomb Raider Lara Croft. That snarky, sexy, whatever. I mean, the new Tomb Raider is 100% based around the reboot, where it was much more she's becoming a raw, real Tomb Raider, whereas the old, crazy, over-the-top Tomb Raider, that was this one, and it was perfectly executed. I think it was cheesy and ridiculous.
I think really good. The old Tomb Raider, like the first games, made a better movie, but definitely the new Tomb Raider is definitely a by far better game. So.
I could agree with you on that. Just if you're going in for a cheesy Indiana Jones style, like over the top, something paranormal or supernatural or magical, and then just a bunch of shooting and action, then yeah, the old school Tomb Raiders are where it's at.
Yeah, and I really did like Angelina Jolie, and she just had the attitude and everything, and she was hot, so
yeah. Also, shout out that like in the first one, you had Daniel Craig, who's 007.
Yes.
Yeah, he plays with a very unsettling American accent. And then in the second Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie, you had Gerard Butler.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah. And in both of them, her Butler is the guy who played Rimmer on Red Dwarf. And so,
he was so funny in that show.
He was good. He was good, man.
He was amazing. I loved when like she was getting attacked in her house and like all this stuff is going on, and then he's just getting kind of suited up. Comes out with a shotgun when everyone's dead,
on and his body armor on.
Yeah. And like everyone's dead, and he comes out with a shotgun and body armor and all that. Oh, yep. Great!
He
great,
knew what
funny.
was up. Also, 2001 Tomb Raider. Last note on it: banger soundtrack, still killer.
Oh yeah,
still
absolutely,
good.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So Josh, go ahead and start the next one.
So this one is our only non movie, but that is The Witcher on Netflix. Yep. Holy crap! This show is amazing. I honestly, it was so well done, and as soon as I found that it was Evil X number 3 being The Witcher, being Geralt, I was like, oh no, I don't like it, but he is amazing. Like, he is now what I see Geralt as.
Yeah, I think that he was the perfect transition from video game to movie to like screen. He was like Angelina Jolie embodying Lara Croft. Like when I first saw like the screen tests that they teased out, I'm like, well, that is a god awful wig. I don't want to see any more of that.
Yeah,
but,
it's like, ugh.
Yeah, and then but then I actually saw the first episode and everything was much better put together, and just the styling was really beautiful. This one I was excited for it, but I was worried that they were going to mess it up, but I liked it a lot. A lot of people got lost in the storyline and in the story arcs because it messes with time so much, but I thought it was so good.
Well, and I've been reading the Witcher books, and there is a lot of stuff going on, like so much stuff going on, and it is really hard to follow the timeline necessarily. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, the show really did screw with me on that, but it was so interesting and well done for what it was. Also, like the woman that plays Yennefer, wow, wow.
Yeah, she embodied the character so well. Her acting and stuff just felt so on par. I don't like Yennefer in the games at all. I think that she's kind of a selfish brat, and I don't like her. I'm Team Triss all the way. But absolutely. In the movie or in the TV show, I actually like her a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Like I kind of hope that they make her the not super likable character in the next season.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm just in love with her. She's just wonderful. She's great. She's fighting. She's really doing what she can, and she's struggling. Anytime that she does something not perfectly great, she's still she's struggling with the ideas and thoughts and everything like that. So
yeah, and her entire story arc from going from her apprenticeship and everything when she is put into with the other sorceresses and everything was one of my favorite story arcs overall. And the headmaster-ish, I can't remember her name because I'm brain farting right now, but that entire character arc between those two and just how you see their relationship shift and grow and everything, I loved it. It was so good.
Yeah, because it's they obviously care a lot about each other, but there's a lot of almost discontent and hatred between them, and they play it off so well that just amazing.
When you have two people with that much power in the same areas, and they both are driving to control or keep whatever power or ownership over that power, then you're gonna have that kind of contention, but you can still see there's a connection there still, and that's what makes it badass.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just if you haven't watched The Witcher on Netflix, go watch it because it's really good. Adam kind of convinced me to watch it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. So
it's a winner. It's a winner for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, man. So this one was pretty much what made me start it. This was well, if we're gonna do this, it was the very first one that I wrote. And when I think of favorite video game adaptations of all time, this is probably up there. And it's the old school 1990s Mortal Kombat.
And this would probably go with my Street Fighter, Mario Brothers, and Double Dragon, except for you had it on here, so I was like, we need to talk about this by itself. This movie was amazingly fun.
Yeah. Once again, another banger soundtrack.
Oh yeah, I would say this is probably the best soundtrack of everything on here.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Because I listened to this for years.
Yeah, it was a winner. But honestly, I wouldn't lump it in with Street Fighter, Mario Brothers, and Double Dragon because the adaptation was really well done overall. When you think about the cheesiness that is Mortal Kombat, the video game anyway, this was not that far off. And it really fit the content that was already provided by the video game.
Granted, but I will say this gave the story so much more structure and so much more reasoning. Because Mortal Kombat, the video game, was hey, there's people trying to take over the world, kind of, in a way, and you have to fight to not let it happen.
Yes.
But that was it. It was so loosely based, and the movie gave it structure. It actually explained the video games even better than the video games themselves.
Yeah. What's really funny is that who was it played Raiden Mortal Kombat? It was this famous actor from he did Highlander and stuff, remember? and I
Oh,
was
yeah.
so jazzed for him to be
Lambert.
Raiden.
Something Lambert.
Yeah, I was so stoked for him to be Raiden, and he was like the biggest disappointment of the entire movie. Like,
Well,
he was the most boring, out of place one out of all of them.
he was extremely boring and out of place. And the other thing is it's like this Japanese lightning god is this old white guy.
Yeah. Christopher Lambert. Yeah, he was amazing in Highlander, but in Mortal Kombat, he was not stellar.
Yeah. But the thing is like you really got connected with Sonya and Liu Kang. Like,
Yeah.
you got really connected with those. And I will give a little shout out to Mortal Kombat Annihilation. It was the second one. It was much worse than the first.
Yeah.
But it had those new characters that, like, they really did justice. Like,
Yeah.
I can't remember Night Fang or Night Wolf. I think Night Wolf. Like, he was actually a likable character in this video, or in the movie. I hated him in the video game. I thought he was stupid in the video game, but like, he was actually pretty cool in the movie. So
Yeah.
little shout out. I like that. Raiden was a lot better done in that one. So,
And also, the guy who played Johnny Cage, his name's Lyndon Ashby. He actually was also in Resident Evil 3, in the one where they're like all in the desert of Vegas. He plays the guy who runs the semi truck with the cowboy hat and everything. So he's like done multiple video game movie adaptations.
he was a good Johnny Cage. Like,
It was a good one.
I think he needed a little bit more full of himself, but he was all right that way.
Yeah. Which, speaking of Resident Evil, that leads us to our next one, which is the very first Resident Evil.
I love all of them. I'm just gonna put it out there. I love all of them.
Have you seen all of them?
All except for the last one, and I bought it. I just don't know where I put it.
Two are rough. I love all of them to the fourth one, I think, but the last two are not love, but I like them.
They serve the purpose of what they are. Like,
True.
now, granted, I will give you the first and second one are by far the best and tells the story really, really well.
Yes. It was Resident Evil was right in that every single video game IP's getting snatched up by whatever studio, and they just need to get something to work. And then you had like Paul W.S. Anderson, who penned it and directed it. I think he directed it. I know that for sure. But I mean,
Yeah.
What was interesting is that was once again in that area where they're like, we need to adapt it into a movie, and it has to be general appeal. We can't rely on everyone understanding the heavy context or the heavy storyline that's in the game. So they created a new character. They did Alice instead of following, like Jill Valentine or Claire Redfield, and so she was supposed to be like the audience's character to like digest the entire storyline. And the mansion was completely different. It was just an opening to the actual spot rather than using the mansion and everything. But it was just a good movie. I liked it for an action movie. It was a good action movie, not a great one, but a good one.
It was fun and it was exciting, and I think the action stepped up pretty well.
Yes.
Because like there was a bit of unease at the beginning, like stuff is going on, which played really well to Alice kind of waking up not knowing what's going on at all.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, shout out to them. Like, Alice was a likable character. Like, you actually liked her when you didn't have any connection to her, which was surprising.
Yeah, that is true. It was good. I wish that they would have done a little more in the first one, but they made up for it in all the other movies.
Well, and they had a lot of, I think looking it up, they actually didn't think they were going to be able to do a number 2.
No, they didn't know that it was actually going to become a franchise.
Yeah, so they kind of tried to pack a lot into it, and obviously, I mean, it worked out for them because, hey, they got a lot of movies after that. But it was also, man, like, I really appreciated like the zombie effects, like there's some of those things that happen that you really are just like, that's gonna stay with me. That imagery, I mean, the woman floating in the water, opening her eyes.
That was a good one.
Those imageries are just, they're gonna stay with you for a while.
Yeah,
so
they were good. Okay, so the last two, man, we're coming up on it. You got the next one.
So the next one is Detective Pikachu, and I really love this. Like, I was surprised how much I loved this.
I agree, man. It was a bit pleasant surprise is probably the best way to put it.
It was, and because I was like, okay, I've seen the Pokemon story a million times, and then I was like, okay, and this is like an offshoot of that, Detective Pikachu. Like, I mean, did you ever play that game?
No, I didn't, but I heard it was actually pretty good.
But it's like, it's not Pokemon, so I don't know. But the story builds the world. Like, this world is actually so well thought out, more than any other Pokemon story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then, like, there's a reason why Pikachu is the way he is in the movie, and I just have to say, Bulbasaur. I want to live with the Bulbasaurs. Plain and simple. They're so adorable.
There was a artist that did a bunch of like lifelike illustrations of Pokemon. Yeah. And it was really popular. They kind of got like viral, like sharing and stuff on the internet for a couple of years. And they were actually invited to help flesh out how they were going to represent these famous characters, characters from this video game that we've seen forever. You know, these Pokemon characters, for the first time in like real, you know, like as hyper real, hyper reality. And I thought that that's part of what made it so good, is that it took everything from the cartoon and the wonder and the fun and that stuff, but then it did add an actual realism to it that you're like, holy crap, if Pokemon are real, that's exactly what they would look like.
That is really what it is for me, is like they took this concept and this idea and that we all loved and made it reality, and it made it into a real story and a real reasoning for different things, and that was amazing.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of what made it really good. Also, Ryan Reynolds can't do any wrong. There's another part.
Absolutely, that man. But I will say this, like, the main character, I was getting really annoyed with, and then I realized he was the perfect everyman to be put into that story.
Yes.
Like, he had all this love for the Pokemon, and he was going to be a trainer and all this, you know, he was going to be Ash Ketchum. Yeah. But some shit happened, and he got really upset, and he was like, no, Pokemon are terrible, screw that, like, no. And having to it was just such a well thought out story, let alone all the fun with Pokemon. Yeah, it was a really good one. That one was like one of the first ones that I watched, and I was like, I'll totally buy that right away. Like, I'll buy that when it comes out. And it did, and I bought it right away. And then it went on streaming, and I wasn't mad that it went on streaming. I'm like, I'm going to enjoy this. I watched it probably 3 times in the first month that I had it, because it was a solid show. Support your creators, man. That's right. Never feel bad about buying something that you enjoy. That's right, man. That's right. Okay, so we're down to, which is funny. It's funny because we already mentioned it a little bit, but we're down to our last one. And this is just one of many. What's nice is that they keep on making a lot of these movies, and they keep on making a lot of these TV shows, and it's stuff that we have that we can look forward to, which is what our next podcast is probably going to be about. But this one is, dude, this one is just my favorite because it's a perfect mix of cheesy, campy, but close to source material and just fun, and that's Resident Evil 2. And see, I want to say that this was the first Resident Evil, obviously. The first one was not necessarily following the story. It had concepts and ideas, and that was it. This one was like, hey, we've got some great source material in these video games. Let's use it. And they did that while keeping going with the story that they started in the first one.
Yeah,
and so
agreed.
like they made Alice into more of an enjoyable character, but they also brought in those characters that you had connections to already. Like, I mean, freaking Jill Valentine is freaking awesome in this show.
Yeah. And the fact that they pretty much did exactly true to the source material, the Nemesis, that was a great representation. I loved it. I thought it was perfect that they didn't really mess with that too much. They just went, yeah, that's just crazy enough, it'll work.
Yeah, but they didn't like overwhelm people with it. I mean, it was that constant like, oh, when is he going to show up, like the game is.
Yeah,
So,
agreed. It was
absolutely.
It was fun.
It was, and it was just like, again, like that's one thing that they've really done well with the Resident Evil movies is they give you those images that sit in your head for a while.
Yeah, agreed. That one. I just, when it came out, I'm like, this is what a video game movie should be. It's not taking itself too seriously. It feels like it fits within the video game world, and it's just crazy fun. It hit right at the right time. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like you said, they had fun with it, but they didn't go overwhelmingly fun. So.
Yeah. It was really good. Anyway.
Absolutely.
So, dude, that's our list. This one was fun because it's going to continue. We'll just there'll be enough of these that come out that we'll have a whole nother episode sometime. There's so many that we have not even mentioned that were good. I mean, so this is just a nice starter. It's a nice primer.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, so we hope you guys liked it. This one is just, I mean, we're all about the lists and everything, but, you know, in the next little bit, we're hoping to get some different guests, kind of team up with some new people here and there, and kind of, we're almost to a year mark.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I was telling Josh, we actually hung out in person a little while ago, and I was telling Josh that we've actually done every single one of these remotely. Like, we've never recorded one of these in person, so we need to maybe break that and do one in person close to, if not for the year anniversary. We got to figure it out somehow.
That's a really good idea.
Because it's just so weird that we did an entire podcast for almost a year, if not a year, completely remotely.
Absolutely. It is fun. It works, though. It works for us.
It was a COVID podcast. That's crazy.
It was.
Yeah. Anyway, all our info is at the end stinger. We hope you guys liked it. If you have any questions, you can email us at geekreloading@gmail.com. We hope you guys liked the music and stuff that we're doing. Apparently, we have a lot to choose from with this wonderful stream beats that they've put out. So, yeah, let us know what you think about that too, and we will talk to you next time.
Thanks.
Geek Reloading Podcast with Adam and Josh. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Have a question? Email us at geekreloading@gmail.com. Theme song titled Rocket by Kevin MacLeod. You can rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on your preferred podcast service.